had two parents that immigrated from the UK here in Australia. So first generation Australia growing up, all around the eastern suburbs of Sydney. And yeah, football was just integrated into life from an early age. My old man played football at a decent level here and back in the UK, and grew up supporting Liverpool. From a long way away. But yeah, played all my youth football, Queen's Park, and then got into the NPL scene, which obviously wasn't called NPL back then. It was had a number of different name changes along the way, but it was for Sydney University. In high school, didn't get retained under 15s, and had the opportunity to go and play with mates at park football, which I kind of wanted to do. I didn't really want to explore, going off and, traveling ages away for training in different clubs and all that sort of stuff. But I think at that stage in my life, I was probably lost my way a little bit as well. I was hanging out with, not necessarily the wrong crowd, but maybe the naughty crowd at school. I was playing park football, was playing with men's towards the end of high school, which I think definitely helped my development. And then, funny enough, it was, first year out of high school, got a letter through the mail. And, at this stage, given up on football, was only playing, I think I was playing Sunday League Division 1 for Barnstonworth, which was a cracking experience as well. And I got this letter that came through and was like, we're a recruitment agency. We send kids to America on sports scholarships. Come have a trial. This was a kid that hated trialing, and was never great in trial settings. Always sort of set me back. And to be honest, I wasn't going to go ahead with it. And I remember my stepdad sent me a message and was like, "Oh, good luck for your trial." And, someone that had done a lot for me in my life in that period, sort of felt like I owed it to him to at least go. So I remember driving out to Valentine Sports Park, and I got there, put my boots on, shinnies. It was about 140, 150 kids, no word of a lie, a lot of people at this trial. And I remember I told him I was a striker, been a centre-back most of my life, but that night I ended up scoring a hat-trick in the trial, lobbed the keeper and all, and kind of walked off the pitch, pinching myself a little bit, going, oh, that was not what I was expecting. There was a contract put in front of me, hey, we'll get you to America, and, rest is history. And I was sold on the idea, the idea of playing overseas, getting that opportunity to, get an education and just do something completely different. I wanted to get out of Sydney, to be honest. So I was in. For me, I just wanted to go, but in hindsight, I didn't do enough due diligence. I didn't ask enough questions. I didn't really know what the process looked like. I didn't know what a good school was. I had no idea about the different associations, the level, calendar year, how many games you were meant to play, all that sort of stuff. So it was an element of it was on me for not digging and asking those questions, but I also didn't feel like I had a whole lot of support throughout that process. And I began to start clipping videos and stuff. And this was before the days of every kid's got a VO camera at the game, and it's a lot easier to get video footage, right? Like when I went through the process, my stepdad had to bring a tripod, a camera, find a high vantage point, and I think we had to film like 4 games or something like that. And they would go through and build a highlight reel off the back of that. And my highlight reel was rubbish. It went for about a minute and a half. It was clips of me slide tackling, missing the ball. And I was a bit like, oh, okay, this is what they've come up with, but fair enough. Reckon they're going to get me a scholarship, and there you go. And I eventually got, speaking of one school called Tennessee Temple. Eventually I got an offer out of them after, waiting on them for months. And it was the only offer that I got. So it was the offer that I took. And again, I'd researched the school, I'd researched the town it was in, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Okay, cool, small little town, but enough life, probably somewhere like the size of Wollongong for people back here that want to know. And off I went. It's quite interesting, right? I remember the first night I got there real late, flew in. The gaffer had picked me up from nearby coach station where I'd got a coach up from Atlanta to Chattanooga. And night one was a little bit surreal. Like I walked into this old red brick 2-story building, got in midnight, my roommate was already asleep, room was a little bit, how's it going? And I was like, whoa, it was jet lagged, wide awake, staring at the ceiling going, okay, it's a little bit nerve wracking. I'm on the other side of the world. I'm here now. Like it was a little bit tough. And, got up next day, walked around the school, the pitch. Wasn't much to write home about. No disrespect to the place. I did enjoy my experience there, but I remember walking out into the football field, and it was an old run-down car park, right? There was 6 different types of bloody grass going through it, gravel on the pitch. I was a bit like, what have I signed up for here? But thankfully I was in the same boat as a number of other international kids, a load of English on my team, and we all had each other, which was kind of nice. So on an individual level, I'd performed, well enough. But come the end of the season, the coach offered me more money to stay. I'd sort of made up in my mind that I wanted to get a transfer, right? Because going throughout the course of the season, we were visiting different schools and, seeing that the grass really is sort of greener on the other side. And for me, it was a case of, okay, I can see that I can do it at this level. Let's go and find somewhere else. I went through the process myself. I went through and sort of understood what coaches were looking for, how to best position yourself, getting the right video footage in order. Thankfully, I'd done really well in the classroom. I was sitting on a 4.0 after my first semester. Off I went, I was outreaching, I was picking up the phone, I was emailing coaches, and I was starting to get an understanding of how this whole sort of recruitment process worked. Eventually, got a number of different offers. I had offers in Division 2, NAIA. I was speaking to schools in South Carolina that brought me in for a visit, for schools in Florida, Georgia, and eventually I was also talking to Bryan College, where I eventually moved. Had a couple of different other offers. The problem was when I went to transfer, the accreditation at my first university was so poor that when I went to move all my credits from everything I'd taken in the first year to a new program, they would come back with all sorts of answers like, you're going to have to start again, or we're only going to take 2 or 3 classes, you're going to have to do a whole load of summer school, this, that, and the other. And Bryan was one of the schools that were going to take everything, and I didn't have to start again from scratch. Fair play to Coach Corney, he was good as gold. He sat me down and went for a meeting. We probably went a little bit more than just surface level. He was asking me about my family, my upbringing, what sort of brought me to America, and we connected, and it was good. I ended up committing to Bryan, had a fantastic, 3 years, met lots of great people, enjoyed the football. For me, in the first year, it was great. Like I was playing, I ended up breaking my leg. So I missed the second half of the season. It was in and out of the team, but it was a good team. I had a lot of really good players around me. 3 of my teammates ended up signing pro contracts. Year 2 was a little bit more difficult. They, again, brought in some good players, built off the success we'd had in year 1. We'd won the conference. It was a bit hard to come back from the injury. Funnily enough, I was playing striker that year, second to an All-American striker who obviously started week in, week out. He was a great player, Charlie. Still keep in touch with him. Funnily enough, come the end of the season, I had an opportunity to go play rugby for the school. And so my team was playing in like a college tens tournament down in Chattanooga, and again, I was in the process of, maybe do I move, look at a different school for my final year. So I went and played rugby, and it was great fun. Got to travel all around America. Went all the way to Vegas, down to Florida, into the Carolinas, traveling, playing with this side. Ended up getting picked for like a select sevens tournament, a select sevens team, I should say, where we played in a bunch of specialised tournaments all throughout the summer months over there. And that was great. Got to meet so many new people, see lots more of America. Was playing with the rugby boys, was playing high-level sevens, and was working a job in logistics where we're on the phone selling freight to truck drivers week in, week out, which again, a lot of really good skills that I learned in that sort of role, with how to communicate sales, running a business. And, sort of while I was in that period, for me, it was a case of always knew I wanted to come home. I wanted to start Southern Cross athletes, wanted to give kids the same opportunity that I'd had overseas, but I wanted to do things differently. Like I wanted them to really understand what it is they're getting into, make sure there's a lot of information on the front end, like what it looks like, different associations, different levels. Don't want it to just be transactional, in, out, want to have someone that they can sort of sit there and talk to and have that extra level of support, right? It was something that I didn't have when I went through the process. So for me, it was a case of coming home, doing things differently, putting player welfare at the front of it, and really sort of supporting people from A to B, and not just once they're over there, see you later. We want to keep in touch with all of our players. We're in a group chat. We hold events when they come home, things like that. It's kind of nice little community that I think we've sort of built. We like to call it, a family. And don't be wrong, like there's some kids that go over and you don't hear a lot from them. There might be the odd message here and there. There's other kids that go over and, we're in touch weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. They've got access to us as a team, and if shit hits the fan, we're only ever a phone call away, which is quite nice. We started the business 2019 when I got back from America. Started, laying the groundwork, building a website, start building up some strategic partnerships. Like, someone like Jonah Football, for example, probably gave me a lot of my clients to begin with, which was great. Take my hat off to him. Really appreciate all the support that he gave me getting it up and running. And it was hard, man. Like 2020, right? We all know what happened then. We went into COVID, the borders shut. No one can go overseas. I think I signed 3 kids in my first year whilst also working a full-time job in construction, and I realized pretty early that you can't be working a full-time job, and trying to build up a business at the same time. So I sort of pivoted from there. Second year, had a lot more success, brought some more people in at the time, and we grew it. It got off the ground. More so in 2021, I think we signed like 17 players. These were all people that we were starting to get through the process, building profiles, walking through our 4 phases of recruitment, and starting to get offers. I think Chloe Walker was the first athlete that we sent over. I think she flew out end of 2021, just as the sort of, the borders had become active again, you could say. 2023 was our first proper recruiting class. We had a lot of players go over then, a lot of D2, NAIA. Chloe was obviously Division 1. And then it just grew and grew every year. 2024, a much bigger class. 2025's been the biggest so far. Now got kids at Ivy League schools, a number of different kids in Division 1, a lot of kids in Division 2, NAIA. A lot more kids now starting to look at the NJCAA route as well. So it's kind of nice. I think we're active in 30 plus states across America, across the different divisions. We've broken into other sports now as well, working with water polo players, golfers, track and field runners, rugby players, soccer players. And it's sort of nice now having that network of coaches at all different levels, that it is a case of if someone else comes on board now that is in a different sport that performs at an elite level, can we help them? The answer is yes. A lot of these coaches, they all speak to each other. They all share a staff room together, an athletic department. It's a lot easier now to sort of reach out to existing relationships that you've got to then open up doors for athletes within other sports as well. So yeah, answer to your question, we've had some great success. It's taken a long time to build it to where it is now, but I'm excited for the future. There's other things in play now that are going to start evolving what we do. We're moving into the professional space. There's more people coming on board. It's an exciting time. Exciting time. I'm really looking forward to what the next 5 years is going to hold here in Australia and over in America, and moving into the UK now as well.